I'm Jake.
And I'm Colin.
You're watching Gas Guzzlers, and this is the 2024 Toyota Highlander.
It's just another boring family SUV.
No. Colin, check out this red interior, folks. This is the Highlander XSE.
I have to say, Jake, from a design standpoint, the XSE trim is the way to go on the Highlander. They really did a good job making this feel like the sporty trim.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Too many brands have a sporty trim in their lineup, and all they do is give the sports trim just a black mesh insert on the grille, maybe some fake hood scoops, call it a day. Toyota has not done that with the Highlander XSE. Instead, they have gone for a completely reshaped grille, so it looks completely different from the other Highlanders. Say, for example, the swoopy, more smiley shape of the grille of the XLE. No, instead of a smile, we have more of like a, like this.
Yeah, I'd have to say that's a pretty good way to describe this grille. You can take your fingers out of your mouth now, Jake. You look stupid.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of these other front features. Of course, you have the LED projector headlights, as well as these little black inserts as are part of the XSE trim inside there. Of course, being a Highlander, this is gonna come with the 2.5 plus safety system. And what that's gonna get you is it's gonna get you automatic high beams. And part of these LED headlights that I really liked is when driving this vehicle, they don't blind you when they reflect off of signs. They're bright enough to illuminate the road, but they're not gonna blind you. That's great.
Yeah, we really appreciate Toyota's respect for our corneas. But one question, Colin, you called me stupid and then proceeded to jump into a plus sign.
I don't know what you're talking about. Now let's move to the side.
Colin, I can't agree more with what you said, which is rare because normally you don't say very intelligent things, but the design of the XSE really is fantastic and is the way to go if you're buying a Highlander. We have these 20-inch black wheels, and we also get black accents here on our mirror caps. Now on the Limited and Platinum, you can get power folding mirrors, but on this XSE, you're gonna be folding your mirrors on your own.
You also get some more black accents up here on the roof rack as well as around this windowsill.
Now, let's talk about something more practical. The door. You'll notice the second row door is actually very large. That's supposed to make entrance to the third row easier, and that thing is huge. I mean, your kids are probably gonna slam this into someone in the parking lot. But Colin, can we please check out that red interior?
Not yet, Jake, not yet. The back here, you can tell this is the XSE trim because you got this sporty looking dual tip exhaust. But it's not just a good looker, it's also very functional. This vehicle can tow around 5,000 pounds, or the weight of the world's largest sunfish.
Thank you, Colin. That's good to know. Now, looking at the rear window here, it's very squat. What's that mean? Well, it means that you get this cool, sporty look, but it can have implications for rear visibility.
That's what we in the industry like to call foreshadowing.
Yeah, but let's take a look at the interior of the XSE here. Now, all Highlanders are going to have a power rear opening tailgate. Here on this XSE, we have a kick to open rear tailgate. It tends to do a pretty good job of picking up your kicks. Here in the rear, we have 16 cubic feet of space. If we want to fold down the third row, we will find 48 cubic feet of space. Put down the second row, and you will have 84 cubic feet of space. Plenty of room to spread out and do all of your activities with your 5,000 pound sunfish. Red. It is red on the interior of the Highlander XSE. This is, no pun intended, the highlight of the vehicle. Now, I expected to get a lot of negative reactions from this color, but everyone I've shown this car to has loved the red interior. From people who know nothing about cars to people who love cars, they have all loved the red interior. Not only do you get the red leather on the seats, you also get red stitching up front. You get kind of a carbon fiber pattern up through the front. This interior is something special. Don't be afraid of getting a cool car. It really is an option that you should seriously consider. I haven't met a single person who does not like this interior.
I don't like it.
What do you mean you don't like this interior? This is a great new, it's fresh, it's something fun.
I don't know if it's just my dislike of loud interior colors or my underlying fear of commitment, but I'm just not a fan.
Okay, you got your joke out, fear of commitment. No, it's a cool interior.
See, but it's not a joke, Jake. Is this gonna hold up? You know, in a year from now, are you gonna get in this car in the morning and still love this interior? If you have kids, is it gonna hold up against the dirt? I have my questions.
I don't know. Okay, I don't want to admit it, but you might be onto something. But I'm gonna still say you should check it out because I'm glad to see someone is doing something new. And frankly, I still think this interior looks awesome. Let's talk charging. Now, normally when I say that sentence, I start talking about charging an electric car, not here. In fact, we are talking about wireless phone charging. You see, with last model year, Toyota took the wireless charger from the center console and moved it up into this little phone divot here. So you can just take your phone, you slot it in right there, and it starts charging wirelessly automatically. You don't have to think about it, and it is not finicky at all. My phone always picks up a charge from this mat. You don't have to place it in a specific location. So we love to see that. Even better is the fact that this has wireless CarPlay. So your phone automatically starts charging and projecting CarPlay onto this 12.3-inch infotainment display. It is completely seamless, and this is a new standard in the auto industry for phone integration. It in fact is so seamless that there have been multiple instances where I just left the car without my phone because I wasn't even thinking about it. In the rear of the Highlander, we find all the amenities you would need to keep your little gremlin children happy. Plenty of charge ports here in the Highlander. We have 2 USB-C ports, 1 USB-A port, and a cigarette-style charger up front. We have 2 USB-C outlets here in the rear. We also have designated climate controls for the second row. We have peasant lockers right here in case your children don't want to look at less fortunate children who are driving in a Honda Pilot or something like that. And then we do have the captain's chairs here. You can get a bench seat on the lower trim, so this can be an 8-seater, or you can have the 7-seater configuration like we have here. And we do have 2 cup holders in between these captain's chairs. There are 14 cup holders total here on the Highlander. The last vehicle we had with this number of cup holders would have been the Hyundai Palisade. Good job, Toyota.
Let's get into the third row of the Highlander. Now, this super wide door makes this a very pain-free process. Standard procedure, you just grab the little latch here, pull it, seat forward, and just look how much space there is here to easily get into the third row. Now, right now, this seat is a little far back, so I have almost no leg room. But if you push it forward a little, and you can comfortably do that with 3 adults, you could sit people back here, but this is more designed for children. If you want the seating space back here, just bump up to the Sequoia to get a more roomy third row. Now, these seats, not great, especially with you see how vertical this seating is. For someone who's a little older and taller, very uncomfortable. I think, like I said, a kid would be fine back here. But one nice feature that's standard on all the Highlanders is the tri-zone climate control, which means this third row is going to have its own climate control, so you can have different temperatures throughout the vehicle.
Go for it.
You're going to have to do something about them knees, dog. Suck them in.
Now, under the hood of the Highlander, you will find either a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine with a hybrid system, or you will find a turbocharged 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine like we have here. That 2.4-liter turbocharged engine is replacing the 6-cylinder engine that was previously available in the Highlander.
Now, before you complain about the engine downsides, you should know this 4-cylinder is putting out a respectable 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. That's a 17% increase in torque from the last engine.
But it's 30 horsepower fewer than the 6-cylinder had, and I think that this engine is not nearly as smooth as the 6-cylinder was. You really have to work this engine. Let me explain what I mean. Yeah, Colin, out here on the highway, I cannot get a read on this engine. I mean, sometimes it is just, I want to praise it as best in class. Other times it just evades me. I'm like, where's the power?
Yeah, I think you might just not be using the drive modes right. We're in eco mode right now, so you know the pedal's gonna have a little less responsiveness because this is really all about, you know, the mileage, fuel economy, that type of stuff. Try shifting it up into sport mode.
Okay, you're right. I will put into sport mode. The drive modes here, though, don't make too big of a difference. They changed the pedal mapping, so it feels a little more responsive, a little quicker in sport mode. The car smooths out your acceleration. Eco mode, that's pretty normal, but I don't think that accounts for the vast difference in kind of personality I've seen in this engine. I think it comes more down to how you work the revs, right? If you're really high up in the revs here, I think this is a great engine. For highway passing, it does a very good job. When you're out there in the back roads though, it really does feel a little sluggish at times, and you are like, where's the smoothness of that 6-cylinder? However, I want to caveat everything I just said by saying that this engine is more than good enough, and everything I just said will probably only be noticed if you yourself are an auto enthusiast. If you are an auto enthusiast looking to buy this car for your partner, or you're recommending it to someone and they're not a big car person, this engine is going to be perfectly fine for them. I only mention that the engine can feel a little unresponsive at times purely for those of you who are interested in getting a car that is both a family hauler with a very cool engine. You're gonna have to look somewhere else for that. But for the vast majority of buyers, this engine is going to be perfect. Colin, it's time to talk infotainment. We have a 12.3-inch infotainment screen here. That is part of a $1,375 multimedia package that also includes an upgraded 11-speaker JBL sound system. Now, the standard screen on the XSE is going to be an 8-inch display for the infotainment, but we have this package. On the limited and platinum model, you are automatically going to get this large 12.3-inch widescreen display. That widescreen makes your Apple CarPlay look wonderful, as you can see right here. It's particularly snappy, and it's wireless. It's just easy peasy lemon squeezy, or lime squeezy, or peach squeezy, whatever fruits you want to squeeze. It is that easy to use your smartphone here in the Toyota Highlander.
Now, one thing that's not quite as easy is reaching this volume knob. Now, if you don't have spindly arms like I do, this can be a little bit of a reach, but that is just slightly far away. Even I have to lean into it just a little.
Yeah.
Of course, you do have volume here on the steering wheel, so you can adjust that. I know Jake personally says he's not a huge fan of that. I don't mind it. That's how I generally adjust volume, but just a little thing to note.
So yeah, that's a preference thing, right? I wouldn't call that a disappointment because some people prefer the steering wheel over the knob. But there is one thing that is an actual disappointment, and that is the camera system on this car. So Colin, if you would pop us into reverse real quick. Uh-oh, we just have a backup camera and it's grainy. And Colin, if you would turn the steering wheel, you will see we do not have projection here, right? The lines don't show where the car is going. That's pretty disappointing to see. And you know, for a car that's well into the 40s, nearing the 50s, I would, thank you, Colin, you've spun the wheel enough. I think you would expect to see a front camera coming up here. I think even the higher end Toyotas, their 360 camera isn't great. This infotainment system is wonderful. This really is top of industry stuff, but those cameras really have quite a bit of ways to go to catch up with competitors from Ford and such. Now, as part of the $1,375 multimedia package, we not only get this 12.3-inch display, we also get a 1,200-watt, 11-speaker JBL sound system. Otherwise, you're going to be getting 6 speakers if you're not getting this upgraded sound system. The sound system itself is very good. It does a very good job of separating the different types of sounds. It's very clean. You can easily tell which instrument is which type of instrument. You can tell what note is a specific kind of note. All the different sounds have very clear separation and identity to them. I really like this sound system. When you combine the sound system with this display, I would recommend going for the $1,300 multimedia option if you are getting an XSE. Now let's talk about this semi-digital gauge cluster. At this price point, this is totally acceptable. I'm not expecting a full digital gauge cluster here. I just like to set this screen to the digital speedometer, but there are some other useful screens, namely the fuel economy screen and the driver support screen, which is going to show you what the Toyota safety systems are seeing around the Highlander. Additionally, we have an all-wheel drive model, so you can see where torque is being distributed, which wheel is getting that power, very useful when you are off-roading your Toyota Highlander.
some of the drive-in assists. Of course, this has the Toyota Safety Sense 2.5 Plus. And what you're gonna get is a lot of your standard safety features, your blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, you get rear cross traffic alert, and we just saw that in the parking lot of the former American Titan Bennigan's. As we were backing up, a car came rather fast, and that beeping really saved us there. Of course, two other important features in that I know you wanted to talk about a little bit more are your lane tracing assist, as well as your radar cruise control.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the dynamic radar cruise control here. Not as big of a fan of the lane trace assist. Yeah, here's what I really like about the radar cruise control. In a lot of vehicles, they get confused when there's a change in the traffic around you. For example, if the car in front of you leaves and merges into another lane, a lot of systems get confused and try to speed up too quickly and over accelerate and then have to brake hard. Or if a car pulls right in front of you, a lot of systems overreact and brake too hard. But the radar cruise control here in the Highlander does a really good job of smoothing out responses to the traffic around you.
But you're not a fan of the lane tracing?
Yeah, so here's the problem with the lane trace. I feel like it has a hard time keeping track of the painted road lines. It very often turns on and off and dings, and I just feel like I'm bouncing around the lane more so than gliding. In fact, I often feel I'm fighting the lane trace system as the steering wheel makes lots of small little corrections back and forth, and I kind of have to fight it. It's not a pleasant experience. So I almost always turn on the dynamic radar cruise control, but will turn off the lane trace assist here in the Highlander. So Colin, when the Highlander came out in 2001, it really pioneered this kind of unibody, independent rear suspension layout that we now see in a lot of three-row SUVs. What does that mean for handling? What are you feeling?
I have to say, I think this vehicle handles a lot better than you think it would by just looking at its size. I mean, on these back roads here, it handles these turns great. You know, it's a smooth ride, the steering's great. I really feel planted on the road. I will say I do feel some of that little kind of jank with the power, especially at lower speeds. It's not like, it's a little choppy, not like unenjoyably so. Like, you're not gonna notice it unless you've driven a lot of different vehicles. But one thing I do have to knock this vehicle for is the visibility. Out the front, it's incredible. They did a great job making this super wide. The big problem is rear visibility. It is a very tight rear window. If you're daily driving this thing, I think you have to keep that third row down, because those two headrests are just massive and create a huge blind spot.
And you have a small rear window to start with.
Yeah, so there's already a kind of a low blind spot. If you have a smaller vehicle behind you, like a low-down sports car, it's already kind of hidden, and those headrests certainly don't help. But Jake, I think you wanted to talk more about this vehicle's drivetrain.
Yes, so you can have the Highlander in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive flavors, but there are two types of all-wheel drive systems that you can get in the Highlander. Trims below the XSE that are all-wheel drive are going to have a pretty basic all-wheel drive system that can split up to half the power to the rear wheels. Now the XSE and above are going to get a more advanced all-wheel drive system that can split the torque not only between the front and rear of the Highlander, but can also split the torque left and right. Now, some vehicles claim to have torque vectoring, but they're kind of lying because they only increase the torque of, say, the right wheel by applying brakes to the left wheel, say. So you increase the relative torque, but you're not actually increasing the true amount of torque put down. The Highlander has the real deal torque vectoring, where it actually can split the torque to either of the four wheels and increase the power of an individual wheel to get you maximum grip and maximum all-wheel drive capability. That fancier all-wheel drive system that you find on the XSE and above will also get you driveline disconnect. So if you're not using all four wheels, the driveline will disconnect. You'll only use the front wheels, and that's going to increase your fuel economy.
So what do we think about the Highlander? I have to say, one of my biggest knocks on this vehicle is the slightly higher start-in price. To get one of these, you're going to be looking at $39,000 for a base model. Compares that with some of its top competitors. Both the Telluride and the Palisade start at about $36,000, with the Traverse not too far over at $37,000. That being said, the Pilot is right up here with the Highlander at $39,000. Now, I think at the lower trims, you might be better off with the Palisade or the Telluride, but if you're looking for those middle trims, like, you know, in the $40,000 to like high 40s, $45,000 to $48,000 price range, I think that's where the Highlander really stands out. Toyota is not stingy with features at all. You know, you start climbing up that price ladder and they will just they'll start giving you all the cool gadgets, the bells, the whistles, everything. Whereas Hyundai, Kia tend to be a little more stingy. You know, you have to kind of creep over 50 to start getting all the really cool stuff. And of course, this is a Toyota. They have just such a deep history of reliable vehicles. So you know this car will work. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned reliability and Palisade. Back in our Palisade video, we noticed that there was creaking in the Palisade that we were driving. No such thing here. I actually had several people, my roommate Eddie, shout out, commented. His first comment was about how well built this thing felt. And I think Toyota really did a good job here with the Highlander, and there's a reason it continues to lead the segment. I'm Jake.
And I'm Colin.
You're watching Gas Guzzlers, and this is the 2024 Toyota Highlander XSE. We hope to see you in next week's video. Take care, everyone.